Well, this is Nancy again, and today I've had the joy of interviewing two people, and now our third interview is Jennifer. And Jennifer and I met at the Hotel Sappho, and I was struck immediately by how at home you are in your skin. You're very at home. But then, Jennifer, you told me a little bit of your story, that you have been an evangelical Christian, and from a young age you knew you had same-gender attraction, but you knew it was a sin. So you stuffed it down, and then had two husbands and two wonderful daughters. Not at the same time. And as you know, I'm mainly interested in high school kids who are just starting to feel their same-gender attraction, or whatever the age is when you start to feel it. And I'm mainly worried, I'm wondering, can we prevent the shame and the self-loathing? Is there a way that a young person can start noticing that and right away know that I am not a sinner going to hell? I just think that message is soul wounding, and you're on the other side, you feel really good about yourself, but I really want to hear you talk about when you didn't feel good about yourself and how you thought God saw you.
Right.
And then how you came to be whole. And I probably won't say much. You can talk to me or those cameras, whatever feels more comfortable. And
Right.
And so is that enough for you to start talking?
Yes.
Thank you.
So I went to all girls private schools when I was growing up, and so at 13 I suspected I could be gay because I kissed a girl and I liked it.
Oh yeah.
But I thought maybe I was just practicing because there were no boys. So I was practicing for a long time. But interestingly enough, even after I left the school, I couldn't stop practicing. And then I fell in love with my best friend when I was about 18. And I think my cousin suspected I could have inclinations that way. I think, and he told my mother, and she really tore me to shreds. And she said it would be a disgrace if I, in any way, shape or form, dressed like it or thought like that or behaved that way. And I liked my jeans a lot more than I did like the dresses she could buy me. So then I knew that it was not just a phase. I knew that I had a real attraction to women, but I thought maybe I was bisexual. And not only that, I became a Christian when I was 16. I loved my faith. I loved God, and yes, I became a Christian at a Billy Graham crusade. And it wasn't one of those I got struck and that was it. But I went up to the altar mainly because I saw a bunch of cute boys. And I thought I'd go and say hi to them, but no, some old lady came, took me aside and prayed for me. I think she knew I was going to hell, but she needed to pray for my soul. But it was at that, so I became a Christian, and then I explored a whole bunch of other religions, and then decided I really loved God. Got involved in the church quite a lot, and was really into evangelical church and into evangelizing friends, and I was here trying to evangelize my best friend whom I'd fallen in love with, and she became a Christian. She said, this is obviously not right. So then I moved, as I tend to do, I move countries when things don't work out with a relationship. So I did move a country, and I went to Canada, and then I went to school, got involved in InterVarsity Christian Fellowship at the university there, and kept feeling attracted to women, but I knew I couldn't honor that. So this guy was chasing after me, and I said yes, and so I got married to my first husband, and he was an evangelical Christian, very much so. And then after that, I had two girls, two children. And I left him, not so much because of the sexuality, although I kept feeling this attraction to women throughout the marriage. And some of them were mutual, actually. but I think for the grace of God, I guess, that I did not, I was not unfaithful to him, at least sexually or physically, but I certainly was emotionally, I think. And then it was during my marriage to the first husband. I was teaching at a boarding school my kids were at, and it was an international British private school. And then I fell in love with a woman there, whom I could not explore that because I was still married. But I left my husband, and during the time, and after that I did not come out. It was my second attempt at trying to come out. The first one was when I was 18, and my mother would obviously showed this real disgust, almost like a disgust for it. And then the second time was between the two husbands. So after I left the first husband, I fell in love with a woman. That didn't work out, and I thought maybe it's not going to work out because God couldn't possibly honor something that was not His design. So I thought, so I went back in the closet and married another guy. He was an amazing dad to my two girls, so there's no misgivings in that way. But again, during the marriage, I made it a point not to have friends who were in any way attractive. So, sorry if my friends are watching this from a long time ago.
Oh, yeah. So you only wanted to have ugly girlfriends?
Yeah. So, if they were large and not attractive, then I knew I wouldn't fall in love with them.
Yeah, and that's actually, in a way it's funny, but in a way
it was true, actually.
It's a good point to all the energy it takes, right?
Oh,
to suppress who I am.
Right. Oh, yes.
Lots of energy.
So they were all so then I wouldn't fall in love with them. And then I was tried to do my best in the marriage. All that time I was very much still very involved with the church. Both husbands were evangelical Christians. But it was really horrible to have to battle attraction, always distancing myself from people whom I might feel attracted to. And then I was just focusing on my daughters and my two girls, and then after that.
In your career?
Yeah, my career. That's right. And I was starting not to be quite happy at work, and then I went to see a counselor. This was not Dr. Sherilyn Sloat. This was another counselor, and she was not a specialist in that sort of thing. But I went to see her, and she said something quite insightful. I was wondering why I was so unhappy. And I'm usually someone who tries to find something positive in everything. And I was incredibly unhappy. And she said it almost feels like you're in a box and you're so desperately needing to break out of that box. So I told her, that what was going on, and she said, well, that should not be the thing that's interfering with the marriage. Yeah, I thought it was quite interesting.
Not very helpful there.
Yeah.
But she knew I needed to break out of a box. She said because I was doing all sorts of things at work to sabotage work, and it was really quite horrendous. And then, for years I always had really attractive assistants, but I just kept the distance, and all this time I did not, and I was not able to, and I think it was because I really needed to come out. It was tormenting me. And my assistant knew what I was, and there was a lot of there was a mutual attraction, but she claimed that it wasn't in any way sexual, but however, I sort of messed up there, and so then it was really painful. But before that happened, I went to see an amazing psychologist, another person by myself, Dr. Sherilyn Sloat in Victoria, and she was just amazing in a variety of ways. She said, because it was so isolating. I was quite involved in the evangelical church and knew no one at all who was gay or bisexual. I knew no one who claimed to be anyway. And the church that I went to, and the people that I hung out with at church did not just have a neutral sort of regard for that, but saw it with disgust. And I was quite shocked by it. But I remember times where I had that same sort of thing. A time that comes to mind was when my older daughter was about 16. I was giving her and her best friend a ride, and we passed by two women who were holding hands, and they were obviously together, and they were at a bus stop, and we were just driving by. And her friend actually said, I thought my daughter was quite insightful. Her friend said, "Oh, it's kind of a creepy, looking at two women intimate. I think it's creepy." And I said, "That's because it's not natural." And because I was believing that. And my daughter said, "I don't believe you said that, because that's what they said about black people when they fell in love with white people, that it's not natural. Why would anyone say that?"
Daughters are
And I
brilliant,
thought
aren't they?
she was 16 and she was just unbelievably bright, yeah. And I thought, yeah, it was so well said. And she said, and so she actually expressed this real disgust at what I had said. And she said, "There's nothing unnatural about that. It's just two people." Anyhow, so that just gives you an idea of what I felt I should say, because I'd been in the church for so long.
Yeah.
And then my friends said things like that, and some a lot worse. And so there was no way I could come out. But Dr. Sloat said, "You should at least have friends or someone or some friend who is sort of like you." I met a lady who was bisexual, and I just thought I'd make a friend. And I was absolutely shocked for the first time in my entire life. There was a mutual attraction with another human being, both physically, mentally, intellectually, and in every conceivable way. I was floored. I was actually floored by that. So I went home and I thought, and she had so much class. We thought first we were just going to be friends, like, have coffee now and then, but the attraction was so strong. And she said, "Well, you're married, so I don't want to go there, and I think if we were ever to have coffee, or it was highly unlikely we'd just have coffee."
Mm-hmm.
Well, she'd be coffee, obviously. But so then I can't tell you the grief I felt to have to say no to that for the first time in my life, experiencing something that was so whole. Anyhow, yeah, so I miss her. So then I continued with the marriage, but it was good, because what was good about that was she said, "I think you need to live your truth. You need to be true to yourself." Unfortunately, it was my 7th year anniversary, and so every year we go down to Oregon. From Canada, we drive down, and this time on that road trip, I came out to my husband, and his first words were, "You're an abomination unto God." And I did not feel that, but he said, "You are an abomination unto God." And but I felt I was relieved that I came out to him, and I don't think he knew what to do with that information. But and it wasn't, I think we both had communication problems anyway, outside of just the sexuality issue. And interestingly enough, I liked sex way more than he did. But so I came out to him, and I just promised him that he doesn't share that with my daughters till I tell them. So it took me about a year after that to summon up the courage to talk to my kids about it. And it was just the most beautiful thing. I must have raised some nice girls, because When I kept telling them I need to meet the both of you together. I got to tell you something, and they're always busy. You know, it's either boyfriends or school or something like that. And I was way down in the priority list, which I thought was quite healthy.
Yeah.
And then finally, I took them both, and we went. We met at different times. And the first, when I took my daughter for dinner, and I wrote down I am gay, and she said, "Mom, is that all? I thought you had cancer." I thought my God, Mom, I thought you had cancer. I didn't realize it's just that. And then she looked at me. She said, and the tears came down her eyes, and she said, "Oh my God, Mom, all the losses you must have experienced in all your life." I was so shocked by her insight. She was at university studying for her psych degree, and she said, "Oh my God, Mom, all the losses." First thing she thought, all the losses you must have experienced. I was like, "I can't even tell you." Yeah. And then she said, "Oh, you can't possibly continue being married to Richard. You have to live your truth." And I thought, what? Just a generation difference.
Yeah.
And what her response versus my friends, or it was. And my friends whom I used to have for dinner, I couldn't believe it. When I came out to them, one person said, "I cannot believe so. Your whole life is just one big lie." I was so shocked. These were people I had, Richard and I would have over for dinner, and they were friends, and that was so you've lived a lie. What else do you lie about?
What else do you lie about?
I was so shocked. I was just...
How non-supportive, right?
I was just shocked, absolutely just. And these were people I thought were so progressive, but so lots of secondary losses too. But my daughters were so supportive. The next day when I saw the other daughter to tell her the story, her response was so funny. "Mom, there's no way I would have guessed you were gay, but I swear to God Richard is." I laughed so hard. And he's a very pretty boy. So my two girls were so funny. They're so lovely, and it's never been a problem at all with them. They've been so supportive. And then they told their friends, so their friends asked for a rundown usually of who I'm dating. I think it's quite cute. But so that part was easy. Then the husband part was really quite something. I realized I could not continue to live like that with him because I needed to be authentic. I think that's the word. Oh my God, it's so refreshing when you can be authentic.
Yes.
But he still wanted to remain married, and I thought that was really interesting. And I said, I don't think I could. So it took a while to unwind the marriage, and now we're friends. But I don't know if the church was still trying to pray for me, because even though I signed divorce papers, he never submitted them. And I just found that out when I came here. When I told him I'm moving to the Mediterranean, he said, we need to complete some things. And then that's when I realized he hadn't submitted the papers that we had signed 2 years ago. Yeah, so it was really hard for him to accept it. But since then, I have no doubt. I mean, I think sometimes he might have thought that I'm just going through a phase. I've never been happier. It's been so amazing. It's so amazing to just live your truth. Everything just sort of falls into place. So that's my story. And I'm sticking to it.
You're sticking to it. That is a beautiful story.
My younger daughter decided to join. We were all going to a Pentecostal evangelical church. And one day I remember, I never forgot this, she came home and she was serving. She accepted the Lord, fabulous testimony, so she decided to serve in the church. And she came back one day early from church in the evening. She went to the youth service and she was shaking. She said, "Mom, there was this lesbian girl there who came out, and the church said she could never ever live that life, and that she cannot serve in the church in any sort of leadership capacity. She's just restricted to serving coffee." And I was so proud of my daughter. She did not feel that's right. she left the church and she went to a church that's inclusive. And I went to that church that she goes to. Oh my, it's amazing. It's an amazing church. And I was so happy for Becky that I never told her anything. I never said you should do anything, and she did it.
Oh,
She just could not reconcile how a church could do that. So she just, and she read the word and everything, and she just felt there's no way God could create somebody and then tell them that there's something wrong with them.
Yeah.
But so it's quite lovely.
Yeah.
My daughters have been really, it's so
It's
easy
so
with them.
exciting.
But I've never told my parents or my mum, because my dad's passed away. I've never told anyone else.
So your mom doesn't know.
No, no. And we don't have a good relationship to begin with. I don't see the point of that added in the mix, really.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Did you tell them a little bit about Vicky Beecher?
Beaching. Oh,
Beaching.
that's, well, I got to tell you, yeah, I think that was a defining moment. So, with my struggle, when I met this person and like there was this instant where I felt, okay, I've got to live my truth, and what is that truth, and how do I reconcile that truth with the truth in the Word? And so I googled Christians and gays. I googled Christian gay, and first thing that came up was a lady called Vicky Beeching. She is a well-known evangelical Christian music artist. Her music is just gorgeous. She spent 10 years touring the States, living and touring in the States. She is from London. She has now she's got a PhD in divinity. So here she is, a pastor herself, and she's touring throughout the States. She goes to all these evangelical churches, and they are condemning gay people. Here she is. She hasn't come out yet. And she said she could not take it anymore because they'd be saying that's the reason for all the problems in the world was because of the gays. And I would have to hear that with my friends all the time. And she said then she got sick. She internalized it. She got sick, so she went back to the UK, and she finally came out. And her story was so similar to mine. I remember she said she was 13, and here she had these attractions, and I did. And she was sobbing. I used to sob thinking, God, why would anybody try to pretend or want to be gay? You'd rather be dead. And I remember that, I'd rather be dead than to be gay. Why would I want to choose this? Because the church kept saying, to choose it. I never forgot. And my husband and I went to service once, and they invited this husband and wife there to give a testimony. And the wife was lesbian, and they're still married. And how bad it was, how many times she fell into that and had affairs. And I was sitting in the audience thinking, oh my God, poor woman. I never slipped up. I thought the number of times I would have done anything to be with a woman. And here I had the most amazing husband. By the way, all my friends whom I no longer talk to are standing in line to marry my husband. It's true. They're dating him. I think it's so funny. But he only likes me, and I told Nancy I don't blame him.
I don't blame him either. Of course.
That's why I know she's on the
course.
other side. Did you have self-loathing in there somewhere?
Oh yes, oh yeah, for sure. There is
well,
that.
like at age 13.
Oh,
I'd rather
there
be
is.
dead.
Oh, right. Oh my God, there was. Even as a teenager, I knew I was. It's really interesting. Now when I look back, no wonder I felt so different. When we go camping, all these girls and all that, and I was in swimming.
Yeah.
And it took me forever to grow physically. I was always tiny, but I looked at all these girls, and they'd all be like, let's do each other's hair and stuff like that, and I would be like running away.
Yeah.
I'm like thinking,
It's too close, right?
oh no, and they were really hot. And I didn't want anybody. I was not into those kinds of things. I just was not. And my mother just hated how she put all these dresses on me, and I hated it. She just put all this frilly clothes on me. Now, my God, I'll just rather run. But I remember that thinking, why can't I just be like everybody,
Yeah.
Why can't I just like all that, like dressing up and shopping and all that stuff? I just did not.
And what's wrong with me? You probably thought
I
that.
thought
Yeah.
that, I thought, now I don't think that. I'm like, now I pass by, I was telling my friends, I passed by a mirror in the street, and I'm thinking, whoa. No, I don't have any more self-loathing. That went out, thank God. But they was there, for sure.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to reconcile. Now there's no need to reconcile
How about
anything.
my last question might be, can you articulate what happened? How did God help you change your view? I am not wrong and evil and sinful. I am created this way, and I look in the mirror and I think I'm a beautiful woman. I'm evil and wrong, and I should kill myself. To I'm okay. I'm actually hot. How'd you get there?
I think the Word of God is the source, really, and the Word of God is not necessarily a person's interpretation of the Bible, but it's Christ. The Word of God is Christ Himself,
Yeah.
and I went back to Christ, and I will not, and I cannot ever conceive Christ as being anything other than absolute love. And when I realized what that means, I can't believe He could create anything flawed.
Yeah.
That was it. Yeah. And Jesus is love.
Yeah.
I am closer to Jesus now than I ever have been. And I can't see how you could not like yourself and then claim you love God.
Yeah.
He made you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there you go.